Hey, Breegan, thanks so much for joining me again on A Well-Designed Business.
It feels so great to be back and with so much going on.
I know, I know. I like live vicariously through you and your Instagram and watching you and Kensington and Kingsley just travel the world and do your things and your brand partnerships and stuff. And I'm so glad that that we ran into each other at High Point and we're like, girl, lady, we got to do this again.
We have so much more to talk about.
Exactly, exactly. But I think what I love most, Breegan, is I've had, half a dozen interactions with you. I had you on a panel one time. We did the other episode together. The thing is, you are so real. And, that kind of can sound cliche but I've met a lot of people. I've done more than 1,000 interviews, I'm going to tell you. And and I will tell you by and by, the greatest majority have all been good humans. But there is a willingness on your part to literally speak from the truth. And when I asked you today, what would you like to talk about? I'm going to tell you guys. She said, I think we should talk about how as your business changes and grows, there's risks and it's not always to navigate them and to figure them out. And it kind of is not always easy. And I thought, well, yay, high five for you, because most people in your position would be like, let's talk about how fabulous I am this month. And we're going to do
Oh,
that
yeah. And
too.
social media is where we do that. But I think having real conversations is where we can be honest in our vulnerability and be like, okay, everything you see is something that has taken effort. And my business takes a lot of my effort and I love it dearly, but we have ever evolved.
Yeah, yeah. So you were running me through a little bit, and then I said, no, 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 save it for the show. But you were just like the outline of it was that initially you open up your business and you're an entrepreneur and you're a full service interior designer. It's all about clients, and then there was a
Yep.
shift into TV. And you were
Yep.
saying I had to navigate clients in TV. And then from there was a shift into influencer branding. And now the
Uh-huh.
newest shift is into licensing. And so
Yep.
talk to me. What do you want to tell me about this evolution, this shifting, this vulnerability of going from one to another?
Well, and I'll even add to it, even before that, before the clients was my ability to do a flip on my own and see and
Oh.
realize my own talents. So it really has, Breegan Jane as a company has gone through so many growing pains in the evolution of who I wanted to become. Um, the crazy amazing part is I remember having this business, having two very little kids. I was in an apartment because I was building my own house, and I had a bunch of girls working for me, and we would sit around the conference table with like our 1 year olds literally crawling around in the conference room of this apartment
Getting it done.
and getting it done. And I always loved having moms on my team, and they would look at me and be like, "Well, I'll talk to my partner about childcare." And I was like, "Forget childcare. Just get this list done with me, please." But I remember sitting there and saying, okay, so we are building a brand, and one day this is going to be like Martha Stewart. And
Mm,
like, I think back to the audacity of that thought.
right?
But I really knew that I wanted to be a brand that could touch more than I was able to physically work on their projects. I wanted to build something that had a voice, that had an ethos, that had a brand awareness, that was built on, you know, my idea of what that was going to be, and hopefully very empowering. So I kind of reverse engineered my career, so to speak, and looked at the people that were successful in licensing, and they always had TV because you need the audience.
Oh.
Um, they're always experts in their craft. So this has not been a fast road for me. This has been a long road of understanding all facets of design, you know, and then being willing to say I don't know. I just launched a lighting collection. Can I tell you how to make a light specifically from like the engineered interiors? No, I need a bigger partner who
Right.
understands that, and then I can go, well, I think the shade should be a little bit more like this, and I think we should do one that's non-directional, and I'm really interested in natural materials. What can we get in the area? And working with partners is, and being willing to ever learn, I think, is a part of that realness and vulnerability that you pick up on.
You know, what's interesting about what you said is, like, my brain went right to how you described how you reversed engineered it. And I love because, what I love is when I see somebody do something that is, oh, yeah, that's actually the way you're supposed to do things. You start with the end in mind. like,
Hmm.
we all know this. We've heard it 1,000 times. Where do you want to go? And let's figure out how to get there, right? But for you to, I think a lot of us could look at you and be like, so you were just a fabulous designer. And then from there, some TV station said, hey, you're so pretty and you're so personality and you got these great designs. Let's put you on TV. And then from there, the influence. But to think about, I want to be here, Martha Stewart esque brand. And that means at some point I'm going to need licensing. But in order to have licensing, I have to have audience. In order to have audience, well, I could do it the long way with a blog, but I could get a TV show. So let's put TV show on the line. Like, it's crazy.
And we did do blog, by the way. One
Yeah.
of the things I've constantly been since the beginning through all of these is a content creator.
Yes. I
My
see the lifestyle
first
blog that you
website,
have there. Yeah.
yeah, my first website was like, 12 years ago. I don't know, but I made myself blog every week for a year before I allowed myself to purchase and invest in a website, because I was like, what use is it if you're not going to feed it content? So I am a little bit of a uh, glutton for punishment and making myself earn my stripes in my own mind.
No, see right there, just like I am blown away again. What are we? I got to look at this counter. 7 minutes into this for crying out loud. like, wait a minute. So, like, think about what you just told to us that you had a deal with yourself that you must blog every week for a year before you allowed yourself to build and launch the website. I mean, that is, see, that's what I love really. Every time I talk to you, Breegan, I always learn how intentional an entrepreneur you are, how dedicated you are. That it isn't just throwing spaghetti at the wall, and it isn't. Look, I have the saying on the show: you got to be prepared to be lucky, right? And so that is being prepared to be lucky
That,
right there. Like, I will have a
that,
year's worth of
that.
content so that I'm lucky when my website gets found on the internet, right?
Very much so. Very much so. Constantly being available for the opportunities that I want.
Yeah. And what you're doing is you're consistently, by that reverse engineering, you're manufacturing what you need to be there so that the opportunity is the right one and that other partner sees it. Like, it's so, I mean, I don't know what conversations that you've had in the industry, but I do know that many do think you just do good work and somebody taps you on on the shoulder to do these other things. And when you talk to someone like yourself that has achieved it at a ridiculously accomplished level, and you learn, oh yeah, I wasn't just designing waiting for somebody to find me. It's very eye-opening, I think.
I think all of us that are there recognize that in each other. And I think
Yes.
it is our duty, like you through this podcast, to really be honest and let other people know. I've had friends come up to me at High Point and be like, Breegan, you're going to be so mad at me. But it's like the best compliment, because then they share something vulnerable or a mistake that they've made. And
Mm.
I'm like, girl, no, you didn't. Like, we got to do this, we got to do that. Like, my friends know to come to me for that real support where I'm going to push them,
Yeah.
and be like,
Yes.
how do we get to your goals? And I think that is something that I've received in my career or through mentorships, and it's something I want to continue to give. And this business, these things, it's ever changing.
It's
We're all
amazing.
going to work with the same brands.
So the thing about it is that you mentioned you mentioned the transitions are risky. right? They're risky to make the decision. That's risky. That's a moment of stomach punch and gut check and that. And then there is the I'm in the middle of it and I haven't quite seen it work out yet risk. So, talk to me about how you've evolved and despite reverse engineering, despite understanding the steps, that hasn't taken away that feeling of, okay, we're throwing the dice, right?
And my automatic reaction goes to the hardest part of those transitions is letting go and not having it defined as failure.
Ah, I love it.
Because to transition, right? Like typically you go, well, did I fail at the client thing? Like, should I be
Mm,
building a client specific business that, like, why can't I scale this thing as large as I want? Why isn't it, you know? And when I get stuck there, that's when I emotionally hold on for longer than I should.
mm,
And so as I've transitioned, I've learned through the gift of the transitions that letting go makes space for something new. In the design world, like our designers know, like decluttering is
yeah.
so, I think, emotional, and things will just come into your life when you clear out muck. And so as I've wanted to evolve, I've had to clear out muck and not say, oh, I failed at this thing, but this thing has to go so I can open up over here. And that usually means that you have a moment of, I'm picturing a field that gets replanted. First, it
Mm.
has to be empty, so you have this moment where the ground is empty and you're like, oh my gosh, what are we planting?
We cut it all
and
down. Is it gonna come
and
back?
I need the fruit. But there's no other way to continue to grow and evolve. That's how I've gotten to where I've wanted to be.
I love that. You know, it's funny because I just recently interviewed a gentleman. His name is Adam Scoogle, and he is from Australia. And he also was in the podcast in the first year. And then I just met him in person. He came to Luann Live in Orlando last November 2023. And I interviewed him. And this is a gentleman, Breegan, who has a full time corporate job. When I interviewed him 7 years ago, he had the full time corporate job, and we had a discussion about, you know, you can do both. You can have your design as a side hustle. My only criteria is that it makes money, right? And then you can still have your job. And then what happened was about 2 years, I guess it was, after I interviewed him, he quote unquote in his mind was like, okay, I'm finally leaving corporate and I'm going to be a designer full time. And what he shared with me just recently on the podcast was that after X amount of 3 years, I think it was, doing the design full time, he's like, I don't really like this lifestyle. I really don't prefer this. I prefer to have the security of a full time job. And I actually prefer to do two really profitable projects a year. And when one project is done, I'm not like saying to myself, oh my God, when's the next one? And the next one, I'm like, oh, maybe I'll take a vacation now, or maybe I'll just relax a little bit and rest. And he goes, and the other one will show up, and it always does. And I'm good. And the point I share that and connect it with you is because he said there was a point when he decided to go back to corporate that he was processing it as a failure, that he couldn't cut it as a full-time designer. And he's past it now. And thankfully, because he just went, he had to work with a coach, who got him past it.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. No, it's that is the biggest mental block. I had two friends that like pick up and moved to Nicaragua like 5 years ago, and they started a blog, and they were smart because they were like, we're gonna do this expat community. We want to open a hotel thing, but instead of going all in, they did a year working for somebody else,
Mm.
and they came back, and I was so proud of them because how hard to tell everybody that you're picking up and moving and you're going to open a hotel, but how much bigger does it have to be to come back? And one of the things they shared was our personal relationships, the depth of them didn't satisfy us. We had constant travelers, but we didn't have
Oh.
deep friendships, and that really weighed on our soul, and we started to almost disconnect from the people that were checking in because we knew it'd be over in a week. And like, how would you know that without
You would
experiencing that?
never, right? You have this glorified version of what it's like to run this beautiful hotel in another country, whatever. Right. And then to understand that what fills your soul is meeting and connecting and developing relationships. And you're right.
Yeah.
It's like to be able to have the strength to pivot, right? The strength and the courage.
And also to just, I think when you're an honest person who can learn to live in that vulnerability, it's like they both got their amazing jobs back because they're people who live life honestly, who they welcome them with open arms, like, we want you. In I think of that often in sort of this mental game that I play with myself, and I'm constantly looking for examples and friendships that support the idea that, change is necessary.
Love it. I love it. So, is there a particular moment, lesson, experience in relation to the business and, the stretching of it out of the box, or maybe a moment, like you said, a moment where it lasted more than a second, where you're like, I planted the stuff, it's not coming up, and, we need the results of that crop now. So anything in that, because, like we all have those come to Jesus moments, right?
Yep, yep. Well, I'll tell you two things that have been difficult for me. One was we really grew financially when social media marketing was at the beginning stages. I was ready for the
Yeah, yeah,
opportunity.
yeah,
I'd been
yeah,
doing the content creation. I had been paying for video content. And I mean, when I say we raked it in that year in that way, it was like, oh, and this is the easiest job.
yeah.
Well, that very quickly switched, and advertisers realized they could get a lot done for free product. They realized they could pay less to more people. And like overnight, this amazing well that had sprung up really kind of dried up. And the first things you do is it me? Is it my content? Is it, what am
Mm.
I doing wrong? Do I change? Do I start dancing? Like, how do I keep this thing going? And I had to let it go and just go, this is an industry thing. This is advertising companies figuring out what they're going to do. This is television commercials going into social, like, nobody's got this figured out. This isn't personal.
Mm.
But we got to make money. So what are we going
That's
to do
right.
now?
Right.
Um, and that's when, I mean, to sort of subsidize that, I started doing a lot more travel and a lot more in-person speaking events,
Mm.
um, because I try to stay ready.
Yeah.
But that was hard. That was hard, and that was a lot of time away from the kids, and that was that hard on the body to travel that much.
Mm. Yeah, it's exhausting, right?
Hmm.
I imagine, I don't know if you're similar to me in this regard. It strikes me as you are because your energy also seems high and up. But for me, it doesn't matter if it's 2 days or 20 days. I'm there the whole time. Like I am able
Yeah.
to jump up, and it's not like I don't like get up in the morning and go, you're kidding me on this 10th day. But once I'm up and I'm engaged and there's another person, it's like bang, 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 bang. My husband, my team, people are just like, my daughter traveled with me. You met her when we were in High Point.
Yes.
And that was
Yes.
like 6 days. And she's just like, I no, like, what is it that you eat or drink or smoke that makes you be able to do this? Right. And it's just, but the thing is, it is hard. And I have noticed even myself over the last 8 years, I used to come back from a 7, 8 day stint and full day the next day. Now I still schedule the darn full day, but I'm dragging my butt through it. And so now it's just this year, Breegan, that I'm like saying to everybody,
Gotta
schedule
keep
me
it
for
list.
only internal, not high brain activity stuff for one day after a big trip. Right? Because it's hard. It is hard.
So I call it being always on,
Yeah.
especially because it's a part of my brand. I am a
Right.
part of my brand. So if I show up to that room, I don't get to sit in the corner and,
Nope.
you know, sip a sip a cocktail and not interact. I
No.
have to be always on. Um and that I've had to recognize the battery does need to power down sometimes.
Mhm.
I'm very lucky that it comes naturally, but it is amazing. Like, I just actually spent almost 4 days up in the Malibu mountains at my favorite hotel and felt really guilty about it. But I was like, it's not even February 1st. You've been to Europe twice, you've been to Dallas, and you've been to a 700-person conference like 2 hours from LA. Like, and
I
this is
think you
just
got 4
January.
days. I think you could take 4 days in the mountains.
But I needed to just, and I was like, oh, and I still go, oh, this is so weird. I'm like, I don't know why I'm tired. And it's like, you've crossed the timelines twice in 1 month.
I know. Oh my goodness. It's true. And I understand what you're saying about the always on, right? And it's funny because I will have people close to me, but like, you know what, you can just come over here and sit. And I'm like, no, I can't. Don't be ridiculous. There's no, you know, don't come if you're not willing to be and talk to the people who help you create what you create when you're content creators like us, you know, whether it's podcasting or for you, it's TV and other things. But that's the whole point. It's like if you don't want to do it, stay home. Don't show up and not
Right.
be gracious, right? So,
Right.
but I'm similar like that. Once I'm there, I'm just like, just plug me in, I'm gone. You know, it's
Yep.
good. So,
Yep.
so,
And
so
then
I
the
go ahead.
the second growth pain that I just want to share out of vulnerability is I have the least amount of employees I have ever had, and I am in the most successful place in my career.
Mhm.
And I didn't desire that. I loved having big teams, and I part of my emotional satisfaction of growing something that has success is to be able to employ women, moms, it just empower people I love, teach them something, let them go discover their thing. And so that was a really hard one for me to make that decision that was right for me and me only, kind of like it felt
Mm,
selfish, but it's also just something that like nobody tells you. I'm like, wait, how can I be the busiest and most successful but also have the smallest team I've ever had?
mm. And is it just from a simple business strategy standpoint that all the faces and the eyeballs are not necessary and you had to wind yourself around to, like you said, like, how do I restructure this? These are people I care about, the people I love. Like,
Luckily, those have sort of happened organically. So you
okay.
know what I mean? There hasn't been that there wasn't this huge exodus
Okay. You
or
didn't have
a
to sit
moment
down and
where I
say,
let
I'm
everybody
slashing
go.
10 people.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, no,
Go.
that didn't happen. It happened slowly over time, and I kept thinking, okay, we're slowing down to grow again, or I'm gonna, but it just kept kind of sort of tapering off, and I realized I was replacing less and less, and what I think it is too, Lana, is the conversations that I'm having and the individuals that I'm interacting with um, don't need to go through an assistant anymore. They're precious and they're based on my reputation of years that I need to be able to respond as me, not
Interesting.
with 10 people in between. And it feels like who I'm connected with are now direct emails to CEOs. Whereas before it was managing product, having somebody pick it up, another person billing it, another person talking to it. Now we're just kind of at a place that I think the compliment is there's not a bunch of middlemen anymore,
Right.
and they're relationships that I value, that I want to be present for because I want that reflection to be able to control it because they're important to me.
That's interesting. That's an interesting observation because it does tend to happen as a relationship with any particular other entity is. You typically will evolve higher and higher up the chain to who you're talking with. The more you become important to that entity, the more you value that entity, right? And that's an interesting observation on your part. I like that. And so do you must still have like an executive assistant to run all the craziness, right? And to get all the coordination with the boys and the airplanes and tutors and all the stuff. No, you're shaking your head
I
no, I can't even
I
fathom
wish
it.
I was lying. I
Oh
wish I
my
was lying.
gosh,
I
girl.
have my assistant is 7 months pregnant, and she works 3 days a week, 4 hours at a time. That's it.
Whoa.
That's all we
Whoa.
need.
Wow, wow.
And those 4 hours are us on the phone. This,
Yeah,
this,
you're
this,
getting it
this,
done.
this. I'm a verbal, like getting it done. Hey, don't forget, blah, 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 blah. But I mean, I'm sure I should reread like the 4 hour work week. Like, we are a machine at this point, and I am a machine, and we check off. The other thing that I am doing is working with a lot more partners,
Mm.
companies that have their own internal teams.
Right, they've got the marketing team, they've got the people who are making the graphics and the, the email sequences and the social media posts and stuff, right.
And then also having more contract employees,
Okay.
meaning people with their own graphics design companies who I
Mhm.
hire their company to help me with X thing. um, more, even just in my building and contracting space, more professionals with their own companies who I might be exchanging monetary value for something they're adding, but they're not a direct employee anymore.
Right, right.
It's a company that will be fine with or without me.
Yes, yes, you're not the responsibility of their, livelihood is not on you. It's funny because I think, my company is similar in that. I've got, 1, 2, 3, I think 3 of us are full-time paid, on the books employees, but the other 11 are contractors. And but,
Yeah.
and some of them are full-time at my disposal, that are my people, right? But,
Yep. Yep.
it does make a difference, and what I love about it is and the way I've utilized it is, and I think you alluded to it, is I'm going directly for a superpower. I'm not looking for somebody who can this, and this, and do all of them okay. I'm looking for you do this amazing, you write amazing. Well, then you come with me, please, and be a copywriter. You create graphics amazing. So then you come with me and be my graphics person. You are a great website person, Nicole Heimer. You do that.
Yeah.
And then
Exactly.
that way you get superpowers all around. You get leveled up all
Yep.
around, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
interesting.
Totally.
Interesting. It's funny because I did wanna just go back to that, how you said the switch from it was basically you got into the paid influencer, on social at the right time, like, you were ready for it, you worked for it, and it just went from them having an understanding of, "We're paying for this," and then the morph of it was, "Huh, we there's lots of people that will do this for product. Like you're paying bills. You're not looking for, a pots and pans in the mail, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
personally. I mean, just where that's where my business is. I don't have that ability, and I have to value my content creation because it's what pays the bills.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And you know what? It's I love the lesson to be able to step back and just say, no, it's not that I'm not valuable or needed or wanted or worthy. It's that business model changed. And I could change with it, but that doesn't work for me. I don't want that. So, like, okay, let's create a different lane for you and your company, right?
Yep. And
Yeah.
and it's also, I've always seen things as possible options. I'm
Mm,
like, for example, one of the things that was popular for 6, 8 months that my manager would say is like, they want really organic content. You talking to the camera, you walking around. And I was just like, but that's not, I don't want to live that life. I like
mm,
making polished content months in advance. I like it being up to this level. I want to stay at this level for the hosting TV shows or just that's, I wanted polished content. Now, not knocking those who are walking around just doing organic content. That is a whole different job and a whole another way you know, of doing content creation, but it wasn't organic to me. And I think the more we change to fit other people's things, the more we lose ourselves and we lose our value.
yeah. I love that observation as well. I mean, that takes courage for us to just say, That's great, that's what you want, but it's not what I wanna do. It doesn't feel great to me, it's not the way I wanna do it, and I love that you separate the different type of content because it's true, there's a place for that. "Hey, I'm putting on my shoes and getting a latte." Like, I don't know who watches it, but lots of people
Yeah,
do. Literally thousands and
I
thousands of people
watch
do.
it. I watch it.
And I'm just sitting there going, "What?" Like, I think I'm just the wrong generation. However, like you said, your brand, what's important to you is a level of production and content. And I never watch your content and feel like I'm going to just say it. I never feel like I'm wasting my time. That's what it is. It feels like I'm in your life. Like we're much better friends in real life than you actually know because I feel like I really know you.
Yeah,
But
like,
it's
that's what
like
I want.
yeah, I feel like I'm in your life. I feel like I know your 2 boys. I think they're just, like, ridiculously adorable. But it doesn't have that, I never really thought about that way. I really never really noticed that it is
All
feeling
produced.
lifestyle, but it is all produced. I like it.
It is my camera guy who's been with me for years now, and we film probably once every 3 months, and then we split up the content. Like all that designer react stuff that people don't even notice, but it is such a part of why I'm able to grab the opportunities that I have. The
Yeah.
designer reacts doesn't need to be successful, but I have to constantly be telling a story of who I am, who my personality is, and what the brand stands for, and what that looks like.
And so when you think about that calendaring, so every 3 months you guys basically have the shoots and stuff, and is it 3 days of it, 5 days of it?
No, in December we shot 100 designer reacts episodes at a studio.
Wow.
And you probably don't even notice, but twice a week I'm reacting to other people's social media videos of design. And it's kind of a foolproof way to introduce my personality. You know what I mean?
Right,
Because my reactions are my reactions.
right.
Um, but I had my stylist and makeup girl on set, and we changed my outfit every 3 videos.
Wow.
And that to me is sustainable content creation that speaks to my brand ethos, but doesn't overtake my life on a daily basis.
What's interesting about that is my at first, I'm sitting here thinking how, complimentary I'm thinking about the efficiency of it, to your point. We're gonna get together, we're gonna do 100 videos, we're gonna change the outfit every 3 times. But when I actually then went to 100 different videos, mentally, now is somebody storyboarding them out for you ahead of time? Because mentally, are you just like the 15th time, I'm like, "I don't know what my reaction is to this." Like, it seems like it's a reaction to the same one as I had before.
And then you've got to be grateful for the team who's like, let me touch up your under eyes, wait, your shirt is wrong, let's
Yeah,
flip your hair. And John, I know and I trust him as a professional to cut out the one where I'm like, John, I don't know what to say anymore. You know what I
right.
mean? And that's where like my hair and makeup girl is like, did you notice the weird plant in the corner? I'm like, oh, thank you. Like, is that her job? No.
Right,
but
right.
but we're a team trying to just get it done. But yeah, that's another one where like the day before I'm like, okay, tomorrow's 100 episodes, and then I kind of have to have 2 days off. But I rather do that and then be able to spend a month. The kids and I sneak away every month for the last 7 years almost to Spain.
Wow,
And part of the reason I can do that is because everything for that month is already programmed in the system. So I rather
wow,
take the maximalist day and be able to sneak away and nobody knows.
wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. So, give me a little bit of that CEO strategy, that CEO scheduling, that CEO discipline there of planning out, like you said, when your assistant, she's 4 hours, but you're bang, bang, bang for 4 hours. I mean, are you are you like the night before it's your day with your assistant? Are you preparing and you've got an outline? Or are you just brain dumping and then she processes? Like, get me into how you
Both.
go from thinking about and getting it all done efficiently.
I think that it's all about simplicity. Like I remember sitting with my my dad on the way to school, and he would always have this legal pad on the armrest next to him, and he would have like, it would be like one third of the way down, and as we were driving, he would call the person on the top, cross it out, and 90% of the time, I would watch him cross it out with one line and add two down below, and then cross out a line and add two down below. And I remember at that time in high school being like, my dad doesn't work. Like he's on the phone. What's his job? Like my other friends' parents were nurses or these very like, you know, tactile jobs. And I
Yes.
was like, my dad just talks on the phone. Like,
How about that job?
right? Well, yeah, the hardest
Yeah.
job, right?
Yeah, right, right.
But I think I subconsciously picked up on the simplicity of those systems. It's like problem solution. I share everything in notes um, with my assistant, and we have her list, and then we have my list. And then I also need to verbal through my schedule, like what do we have going on in the next 3 weeks? Okay, what's today? What's tomorrow? What's Tuesday? But then also what's next week, what's the week after. It's basically just all lists, and it's lists of goals, it's lists of things I have to do, it's lists of things I can get to when I am done with the have to list. um, but it is all list. Even the kids and I, we do a goal list every year,
Wow.
right around the new year. What are your
Wow.
goals for this year?
And what are some of the goals that the boys come up with?
My younger son wants to ski more. And
Mm.
so, like, as a mom, I'm like, ooh, I gotta find a way to do that because that is not something I excel at. Um, I could pull it up. And it's always fun then to re-look back at it
Yeah.
and be like, oh, we accomplished all of these things. Um, my son wants to be more mature. He
Oh.
wants to be cleaner. He wants to not be scared of monsters, and he wants to do more skiing.
And how old is this one? Which
Um,
is this like older or
this one's
younger?
8.
Okay, okay.
8. He's the younger one,
He wants to
and
be more
he's my messy
mature.
child.
He
More
wants to be
mature.
more mature and cleaner. That's
It's all gold and
adorable.
cleaner. Um, my other son, because sometimes they inform each other and we do it all together. He wants to see the snow, but he's not interested in skiing. Um, he really wants a Timbuktu bag, and he wants to be more responsible. And then sometimes, so this was this year's goals. Last year's goals, like my son wanted to go to New York. I had the opportunity to take him. He wanted to go to the Santa Monica Pier. I can kind of help inform them at this young age, like, oh,
Yes.
if we set goals, they happen. The magic is mom. um, my son's goal last year was he wanted $100 more. And like that was something this year where we were like, you didn't get there, did you, buddy? He's like, no. But he's
Oh.
8, and he's just really like he loses his Christmas money and he spends it, and like he's always misplacing, like, and so we were like, okay, so we continue that goal on. Like one day you will have $100. One day. It's not this year, but one day.
I just love it. I just love it. The life lessons that you are teaching your kids on the regular are just so incredible that they are watching their mom, who is this powerhouse and that is creating this life of her dreams and is sitting down and writing her goals and reverse engineering them. And when you are, because a lot of times the kids are involved. So is it the type
Mhm.
of thing, now that we know it's not like, just organic and impromptu, um, is it with the kids happening on vacation and it's like you're like, okay, this is a good thing? Or is it like we're getting the kids and we're putting them together for a couple of days and we're going to do some shoots and then they're off for the month too? Like, because they're
That.
part of your brand. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they're part of you.
Well, that, but also part of it is like, so it's a little bit of everything. I also really do like photography and putting memories into a capsule like that. I've been terrible at keeping journals for my kids or all the lovely things I thought I would do when they were
Oh,
babies.
right. My
But
first grade
what I'm
picture and my teeth came out this day.
this mom doesn't have any of that. And I tried to put it on Nana. I was like, "Can you keep one?" And she's like, "No, not my responsibility." So, I basically buy a photo book every year that's like of wedding photo album quality that won't, age, it won't whatever,
Um,
and I'm doing 2 stacks of them for
oh,
each kid for
God, you're
all 18
documenting
years.
their memories. That's amazing.
But out of guilt and the inability to do it in a daily basis, I'm like, "Okay, I gotta have something for you when I die. All right, you each get a photo book for every year of your life. Like, this is what mom can contribute."
But that's a big deal, though. I have to tell you, even the commitment to do it each year. Like look, any one of us has been a mother has done I'm going to do this every year for my kid. And then like 1 year later, you're like, yeah, I missed a year. Then it's 5 years.
Well, luckily, we take enough photos every year to fill a book. And I think it's only like 50 pictures, but it's that really nice paper. I mean, it's that really wedding quality.
Yes.
And then I have a photographer that knows that I want it every year and is very happy to remind me that we need to do this year's book. And
Oh, that's
so
awesome.
building a team looks different all the time.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. That's so good. And do you want to talk at all about the philanthropy that you do with your organization in Africa? It's the Makuno Project, and then also you
Yes,
have
I
the
would love to.
school there that you have has helped establish. You want to talk about that at all?
Yeah, and it's actually multiple schools, and I'm gonna pull up some stats for you, I think, if I can
Mm.
find it quick enough, because it's been really exciting what we've been able to do, and I think those always help sort of inform what's actually going on. And of course, I can't pull them up, but I will find them. So basically, I have been involved. um, I've wanted to fix the world since I was really, really young. And I was given the opportunity again through my parents to really visit orphanages when I was 8, to go on a micro loans tour of Costa Rica when I was 11 and bring a
Mm.
friend. But we're going into these homes where they're being given a business loan and then they pay it back and then the loan lives on. So, like, this idea of tithing has been a part of my upbringing.
Mm.
And that used to feel very burdensome. And I wanted to fix the world. And it
Mm.
was my dad who sat me down and was like, "You can't fix the world." I'm like, "What do you mean I can't fix the
You're
world?"
the
He's
one who
like,
inspired me to want to do it, right?
he's like, "But you can fix something for somebody somewhere. Like, I know that without a doubt." And I was like, "Oh." And so I got very intentional with what my cause was going to be. Um, because I'm like, if I have a cause, you have a cause, she has a cause, now we're fixing the world.
Yes.
And what spoke to me really was these girls in Kenya, and a lot of it is child marriage. At 8, they're sold off literally for cows. They don't put them in school, education. They underestimate women, I think, on the most barbaric levels. And so one of the things we're really fighting is also FGM, which is
Mm.
female cutting, which happens at 8, and it's dangerous, non-sanitary, emotionally horrible. um,
Unthinkable.
but the way you combat it is by going, "Hey, give we'll pay for her to go to school and watch what happens." And the whole community changes. I mean, it is insane. It's like going to a desert and all of a sudden just this spring pops out. When you stop underestimating half your population, it is amazing. And giving them tools to succeed, it's amazing how everything thrives. And
Are you saying that it's changing from within the community? In other words, the community who is friendly to these young girls is the one that's approving and allowing, and this is happening. But then when you prove to them that with education, this young girl becomes a positive member and somebody that impacts things in an important or in a positive way, then the community itself is like, let's stop doing this. Whoa.
Exactly.
Whoa.
But also more, all encompassing. So like
Yes.
when we're starting in a new area, one of the things we do is get together and ask them, who are your leaders? We'd like to have a meeting. And they provide their leaders. By the way, all this work in Kenya is being staffed by Kenyans who grew up in these areas. This isn't us, like what, like people, when I go, they're like, oh, you're helping. I'm like, I'm not helping, I'm asking the hard questions and I'm seeing what the funds are doing. I'm not implementing any of the work, you know. It is them that are creating these changes. So, and then you get them in a group together and you go, so what problems do you guys have and how do we solve them? You know what I mean? And whether it's, we really have no water, but one of the ones that comes out and most fathers don't want is this cutting. I mean, it is just brutal. And I
So
have
who's
sat
doing
on
it and who's
riverbeds.
wanting it then? If the fathers aren't, the mothers can't be wanting it. I mean, is it just
It's that I
generationally
it's
it's like a custom, it's a ritual, it's a thing? Like, I
it's
thought
being
it
afraid of change.
oh
It's
my
being it is
god.
just, and it's by the way women and grandmothers who do the cutting, which, like, even finding that part out as I get more into this and learn more, I'm like, wait, what? Like, I'm picturing some hugely barbaric man pinning down this girl, and it's like, no, it's
Right.
her grandmother. um yeah, it's just very interesting how people are afraid of change and questioning the whys, and when you
And just
give
not
them the
knowing any
space.
different. This is just what it's been done for years and years and years and years and generations, and this
My
is what we
mom did
do.
it, so I did it, so we're gonna do
Right.
it,
Well, and by the way, in
even
our
though
own
it's
lives with way less traumatic things, we do the same thing, right?
exactly generational chaos.
Yeah. Well,
I'm
I mean,
sure
even
we
like
got
you're
some with the boys.
and the thing is it positively too, right? Like you described how it's your parents who instilled in you this spirit of helping the world. So that's a positive
Yeah,
thing. And you're doing it to your
right,
children. Your children are learning it
right.
right through you. You're not like, "Hey, mom's going to go volunteer and change the world over here. I'll be back to go to McDonald's with you." You're like they're living the life with you. But it just I think naively we want to think that something that horrific has to not be condoned by the people in the community. It feels like you said some guy is barging in and like doing this. Whoa, I just learned something today.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
yeah. And so it's amazing because Makuna is partnered with other charities that are bigger, and we are able to sort of all create this change and then do it in a way that we've scaled the thing. And you're going into areas where it's 100% cutting and you get it down to less than 1%, and then
Wow.
you grow, and then we still go back and address that 1%, by the way, and why, and then we keep scaling it. So the goal is to really solve the problem in Kenya first, and then my goal would be, okay, this happens all over the world. FGM is legal in the United States.
Whoa.
It is a parent's right. There was a case, and I don't have all the specifics in front of me, but there was a big case a few years ago that went to the state's Supreme Court, like not the, and they basically said we can't tell a parent what they can do with their child, and
Wow.
it remains legal here.
Wow.
It's
That's
not
crazy.
happening here all
Right.
the
It's not the
time, but
custom here. Right.
also, not that it's any better, but it's usually, surgical and anesthesia, and there it's under a tree, and not
Oh.
that this should be happening anywhere,
In
right?
either
But
case,
it's
but
just,
one is really
but people,
dangerous in all the other ways, the immediate ways of infection and trauma and all of
yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, and well, it's just funny because people are just like, over there, that problem. And I'm like, oh, yeah, but by the way, like, we still do it here. It happens in the Middle East a lot. It is a global issue where I'm focused in on one area to figure out how to solve it here, and then my goal is to take that and figure out how to solve it globally.
Duplicate it. Right. have
Mhm.
it be the impact the other way. We don't do this here
And
anymore.
learn from people who have. Like, I
Yeah.
remember just internet stalking this guy that really, ran a successful campaign in London through colleges on eliminating it, in England, and it was so successful that when I finally got him on the phone and he's like, "Who are you?" And I was like, "Who are you? But I need to know who you are because you
I'm
fixed
an
the
interior
problem I'm
designer in
trying to fix."
LA.
Right. And we're still friends and he still reaches out. And that's that vulnerability too that I just try to have like, hey, I need help. But he was like, yeah, basically we did it and we ran this campaign and it was so successful. We I don't have to focus on it right now. The colleges took over it and their way of solving it was talking about it.
Yes. Well, that's what it is. You have to know more
Mhm.
than just the headlines. Like me, I just know the headlines. And now you're telling me some of
Yeah.
these, ridiculous nuances that like grandmothers are doing it to the, it's just, wait, what? You know? So
Mhm.
so my question is, was like you said, when your dad said, I wrote it down because it was so good. You can fix something for someone somewhere. I love that. Your dad sounds
Mhm.
like an amazing guy. I remembered that our first interview, talking more about your parents and being very impressed by them. Um, so did you, with this in mind, there's people listening that you're inspiring, that they're like, you know what, I feel really passionate about XYZ cause. And is it that we have to go start this thing, or like Makuna, did you start it, or you decided this was your
No.
cause and you found them and you just became important and an impetus for them?
Yes, that second one. And
Okay.
it's Makuno is led by Margot Day. Margot Day is an ex-Microsoft executive who is brilliant, who really started a lot of this work in Kenya when she stumbled on a rescue center in 2011. And I just started getting more and more and more involved
Hey,
to the
Margot, it's been
point that
Breegan.
exactly, and luckily Marco is like, "Hey, I need help,
Yeah,
I can use people who are passionate about this," and yeah, yeah,
I love
so
that.
right now, the Makuno board does not include me, I'm more of an advocate of theirs, and she's like, "Do you want?" I'm like, "No, I wanna be what I am, the branding voice," but in terms of all of the nuts and bolts and the 501(c)(3) and everything, like, they are much better at that part of it.
Right. Well, and I love that because that makes it feel like something each of us can aspire to do then, right? Because, you might have said, oh, yeah, I invented it and I started it and I've got the 501(c). Like there's a lot of people that do that, like Margot Day, right? And then there's something
Uh-huh.
about that is like, okay, I probably don't have the bandwidth or the intelligence or the connections to do that. So then we go back to doing nothing, as opposed to what I
Mhm.
love is find something that you can sink your teeth into and see if somebody out there is doing it and could use your help, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
and this year actually, I'm gonna dedicate a lot more time to helping tell the stories online because it is insane what $25 will bring a girl in that area, and I think when you can tell that story, um, does make people feel like they have an ability to create change, even though they're not there or they're not traveling with you, but we need that help.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's incredible. I love that. That's so amazing. Oh my goodness, you would just are, it's just so fun. And, probably another few years, we're going to have to do this again and see what your next iteration is and what the next risk was that felt scary to do. But in the meantime, it's such a pleasure and a joy to know you and to watch you do your life and all the ways that
Aw.
yeah, it really is. I think, it's funny because a lot of people make a choice for their own good, valid reasons, not to bring their children into their public life. Um,
Mhm.
but for you, it works. And for your family, it works. And then just as the person watching, it just consistently re reminds me of the actual real human person that you are. It's like, oh yeah, she's a mom. These kids are probably off camera fighting right now, but they're going to be fine. They'll lock it down and then they're all going to have an ice cream. You know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah, no, I mean, we try our best, but we try to show the real sides too, so that it feels
Oh, yeah.
authentic, and that it is authentic, and it's achievable.
Yeah.
Um, I'm gonna give you these stats real fast
Oh,
because I
yeah.
found them.
Oh, good, good.
So, Mak Makuno sent 256 girls to school for a year with our scholarships. We paid for 23 teachers' salaries for 3 months. That was sort of an immediate need. We 85 rescue girls we were able to provide personal support to. We did 4 college scholarships, and we sent 2 boys to 1 year of secondary school, and hopefully they will continue on. And that was just Makuno. We're working with bigger partners out there who are doing more. And I think I personally was able to help Makuno raise only like $10,000 last year. This isn't crazy, unachievable numbers, but the
Wow.
effects are giant. I mean, that's like 300 people. That's 300 people somewhere.
That's right, 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 to your dad, 300 people that you were able to fix something for somewhere, right? That's amazing.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Congratulations, really, again, of making it a priority in your life and living the values that your parents taught you. It's incredible. I appreciate you so
Thank
much.
you.
I appreciate your taking the time to be here today with me and sharing your thoughts and your
Same.
insights. It's awesome.
It is great. It's always a fun time. I appreciate you letting me go. Lana, we got stuff to talk
That's
about.
it. Thanks, Regan.